We're here in Memorial Hall in the City Hall of Kingston, and it's appropriate that we're here to look at this remarkable photograph from 1916 of the Barriefield camp. Memorial Hall, of course, was dedicated after the war to the men and women of Kingston and area who died during the First World War. And this photograph shows up to 9,000 of them in their training in Barriefield camp. It's 18 feet long, which is the longest that could be made at the time, and it's a panorama photograph which starts looking out towards the west, so that we find here the tower of St. Mark's Barriefield Church. And that gives us an idea as we swing to the north and we begin to see individual soldiers, the band who've put their instruments down in a break in their practice. And you'll see all along the back the tents, and at this time there were about 9,000 men under canvas here. We see the horses simply eating in the field, but here we've got a group with rifles, obviously far more prepared and ready to be sent off to Europe. And we know that this is just a regular day because here we have a gentleman carrying a plank of wood, something else being carried, and further along here we find a group of people carrying until we find where we are building in the area here. When we consider that there were 9,000 people here, that's basically 9 battalions, including the 146th Battalion, which was Frontenac County's battalion, you begin to think about how much that affected the economy of Kingston. They had to be fed, there had to be water, there had to be milk, there had to be all the other things that keep 9,000 people going. And Kingston's population at the time was only 23,000. So this is a large increase in what was needed in supplies. In the center here we find the only permanent buildings, and these are buildings which did not survive for very long after the war, probably the headquarters, and you will find a couple of people standing around, talking, doing whatever their business was. And as we are now looking towards the east, we begin to see the Gananoque Road. These tents are on the far side of it, and the road becomes more apparent as we come along here. Here we have 2 horse-drawn vehicles. This one looks as though it could be an omnibus, and this one a more private coach. In each case, you wonder who these people are, whether they just happen to be traveling between Kingston and Gananoque, or whether they're perhaps mothers who have come to try and see their sons before they head off to Europe. One of the great questions that comes from this photograph is, what must it have been like living in the village of Barriefield when there were 9,000 to 10,000 men in a tented camp just beyond the village? In the summer, those men were there, and obviously they didn't stay in the camp the whole time. They would have spent some time going into Barriefield, into the pubs, into the bars, into the stores, and probably stopping there even if they were on their way to Kingston. But it makes one wonder just what the effect on the people who lived in Barriefield was during those war years, particularly 1916, 1917 and 1918, when this camp was where today we have CFB Kingston.